Hi there, everyone, and thanks for attending today's working group update session. My name is Matthew Brousil, and I'm a data scientist for the Decision Aid System at Washington State University, and I'll be talking to you a bit about the Cyberinfrastructure and the Methods and Tools working groups, and giving you some updates on some of their recent work. So the Cyber Infrastructure Group essentially recognizes that there's a variety of computing challenges that are needed to be overcome, essentially, in order for real-time or near real-time ecological forecasts to be deployed. And so the goal is to make it easier to implement, archive, and share automated forecasts so that any group with the ability to develop a forecast also has the ability to deploy that forecast more widely. So for example, the working group is interested in developing standards for interoperable archiving and sharing of both forecasts and their workflows. Next is the Methods and Tools working group. And essentially, we all know probably that ecological forecasting both has the ability to learn from other disciplines, but also has some challenges that are unique to its own field. And so the goal of this group is to advance the statistical approaches and best practices for things like data assimilation and to translate those into software tools that are usable by ecologists, and then ultimately develop uncertainty estimates for common data sets as well. So the EFI Task Views are one way that these goals for these two groups have come together. And so the task views, essentially, they're a major product from these two working groups. And they have the goal of making these topics accessible to both newcomers to ecological forecasting, as well as those of us who are established and maybe just need the resources kind of compiled in one place, or to make them a little bit more clear for people who are unfamiliar with some of them. And so these task views contain essentially lists of tasks you might need to do for forecasting, as well as associated methods and tools that can be done. They're living documents, and they generally exist in a blog post format, and they're curated by a handful of members who meet regularly to craft these task views together. So if you want to get some more information about them, you can go to the EFI Task Views page for the EcoForecast website, and we'll take a look at that right here. And so if you bring it up, this is what it'll look like, and it talks a bit about the task views and kind of the idea behind them, and then it'll give you links to the ones that have already been published. So for example, we have this reproducible forecasting workflows task view. If we click on that, you can see what the final version or current version, I should say, since this is a living document, looks like for one of these task views. And so you get a list of those of us who have been involved in them, and then topics from, in this case, scripted analyses, all the way down through data and code release. And so each of these sections generally has a paragraph or two of information, as well as a list of some related tools or maybe training resources and that kind of thing. So as I mentioned, a couple of these have been published already. We have the reproducible forecasting workflows that's been published. And then also uncertainty quantification, data assimilation, modeling, and statistics task view is already up as well. In progress, we have the data visualization task view, which I'm excited to say I've been involved with. And our forecast for that one is that it should be available sometime this summer. You can look forward to some information on things like accessibility of visualizations, static, animated, and interactive visualizations, as well as visualizing geospatial data and some uncertainty metrics. So you might be wondering what's next for the cyber infrastructure and methods and tools groups. There's a few different options that we're kind of deciding between right now. The first of which is to look at some of the gaps that exist in the cyber infrastructure and statistical methods for ecological forecasting. A second option is to work on data visualization for the NEON forecasting challenge results. And then a third option is Task View 4, which is data ingest, cleaning, and management. And so that's the final task view in the task view series. So we're deciding between those right now and kind of gauging interest. So if you're interested in getting involved, you can contribute to those task views on GitHub. or maybe if you want, you could lead an upcoming task view or one of the other initiatives that we have going on and help out with current or future ones. Thank you all for your time, and I look forward to talking more later in the session.